Okay, today we're going to be installing the Road Race Motorsports lightweight crank pulley on my 2015 Dodge Dart. I already went ahead and pulled the tire off. Next, you have to go in and remove these little clips. There's a few little bolts in here too. We'll have to take out to take the inner fender out. Now, if you're unfamiliar with these clips, they're relatively easy. If you take a flathead screwdriver, there's a little tab in there. You pull that out, and there you go. It's relatively easy to get those out. There's a few in there. You have to pop those out. Now, as for these bolts here, they are an 8mm. There's 4 of these, one here, one right here, and one right here, if you can see that. And then up top here, right in here, there is a 10mm that you'll have to remove all of those to get your inner fender liner out along with those clips. Now for me, I have one extra step. I have aftermarket mud flaps, so I'll have to remove the screws, the 3 Phillips head screws, and the 2 clips. If you have aftermarket or even factory ones, you may have to do the same thing, but this just is an added step that if you don't have mud flaps, you won't have to worry about. Now there is one bolt back here that I forgot, I didn't notice, so that'll have to come out before we can get the fender liner out. Okay, now we have our fender liner out here. This, after you get all the bolts and the clips out, it's relatively simple. Just pulls right out. Now actually is not a bad time to check your filter if you're running cold air intake. Mine was just cleaned in the spring, so it's not bad. Now right here is what we're talking with the crank pulley. You'll need to remove, there's a nut on the back here. You'll have to remove that nut to get this out of your way, and then you'll have to use an impact to pull this here bolt off. If I can get you in there. Right there. You have to pull that off. You'll have to release the tensioner on the belt to get the belt off the pulley beforehand. And after that, you remove that bolt, your pulley comes off, and your new one goes on. Okay, now this is a 10mm holding these lines up here, the nut on the back. It's a little tight to get a ratchet in, so your best bet's a wrench. If you have ratcheting wrenches, that's really your best bet, but it is a little tight. Once you get this off, you can pull those lines out of your way and get to your tensioner. There's that. Now this should come right off of there. Just enough. So when you go to get in there, you can just pry this up out of your way a little bit and get to that bolt. Now all the way up in here is your tensioner. Right above this pulley right here. So up in here, I'll show you from inside the engine bay. Whichever way you please to try to go about it, it's in a tight spot regardless. It's this right in there. You can see that bolt sticking out there. That's your tensioner. It's mighty tight to the frame rail to get a socket on, so probably gonna have to use a wrench for that too. I'm gonna try it from the bottom, but I might end up having to come up here with a wrench and try to pry that off, but I'm gonna try it from the bottom to start. I am able to reach that tensioner from down here. It is a 16 millimeter. Just have to really crank on it here and get your belt peeled off. And now that your belt is clear, pull that belt out of your way and you're ready to pull the crank pulley off. Now the bolt is a 7/8. You definitely want to use an impact. If you just use a wrench or a ratchet, all you're going to do is spin the engine and you're going to have a hell of a time getting it off. So had a little bit of a hard time there, so I just did it without recording. But here's our bolt. Here is our crank pulley that we can pull off now. And man, is that a huge difference in weight between the aftermarket one and the factory one. I mean, I'm almost certain that they said there's like a 3.5 to 4 pound difference between the two. I mean, just feeling that is massive. That is a huge difference between the two. I mean, this feels like it's nothing compared to the factory one. So we're going to go ahead, get this here slid back on, and see what we get. Now it is keyed. There's a keyway you'll have to line up on the end of the shaft. My keyway is right there. So I'll have to line that up, get that put on here. Maybe. There we go. That's on. We'll get our bolt back right here, threaded back in, and get it all put back together. And now, it does say to crank it down to like 150 foot-pounds, I do believe. I'm just going to run it on with the impact here, and then I will crank it down with the impact after I'm done. After I get the belt on, just so it's not so easy to turn the engine. Just to make it just a little bit easier. Now Here's that. Let's get this impact back on that. Now that we're threaded, we definitely do not want to be cross-threading that. Okay, that's back on. Now to torque it down and put everything back together. It's going to be a little bit difficult torquing this down with the very minimal room. I just have a cheap one here, but it definitely does the job for me. See what I mean? All this wants to do is spin. So we will have to put the belt back on and see if maybe we can do that. I'm thinking with the impact it'll be on there good enough, but better be safe than sorry. Now, if there is one thing that I ask of you, please do not mess up your belt orientation. That's just going to be one problem you do not want to have. You're going to cause problems spinning things the wrong direction. Your engine's not going to be happy at all with that. I'll throw up an image of the belt orientation for the 2.4 Dart, and I believe it should be the same for the 2.0. And now after seeing that, you'll want to get your wrench back on your tensioner here, if I can find it. Okay. Pull that back. Definitely is not going to want to cooperate with you, but okay. Now the belt is on there. Go through, make sure you're in all the grooves. If your belt's sitting like on one of these lips here, you're just going to shred your belt. So go over it a couple times, make sure you're on there right. I'm going to try to tighten this down a little bit more. I don't know if it's going to let me, but I'm going to check everything over and make sure we're good. Now I did try to torque that down. It just wants to spin, so I know I'll probably catch hell in the comments for this. But I just ran it the rest of the way on with the impact. The impact is running it on with the impact. It's not going to go anywhere. As long as you're not cross-threaded and you are threaded in there fine, and your belt's on there and everything, you're not going to go anywhere. Just trying to torque it down though. All it wants to do is spin. So we're all together and make sure everything's clear. And we'll start it and make sure we don't have any issues before we put everything back together. You definitely don't want to put this all back together and then figure out, oh hey, I have a problem, my belt's not on right, whatever. But we'll start it and see what we get. One thing I do want to mention before you start it though, definitely hang this back up. This is not something you just want dangling around and having your belt cut, or having your belt cut through one of these hoses. That would not be a good thing. That's going to cost you, and the dealership is not going to be happy with you, or you're not going to be happy with yourself having to change that. So just make sure that that's clear and out of the way. I'm just going to bolt that up just so it's safe, and then like I said, just go over everything once more and just make sure we're all good. Well, we're running, not any problems. It's starting. You can see the pulley spinning, the belt spinning, everything's fine. I'll let it run for a couple minutes and see if anything changes, but we should be good. Just for my paranoia, I might try to crank down that bolt one more time with the impact just to suit myself, but It's on, we're ready to go. I just checked everything over. Everything seems to be good. It runs, it idles. The belt's where it needs to be. Everything's functioning properly. I don't think I really need to go into detail putting it all back together. It's rather self-explanatory. It just goes back in the way it comes off. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I will leave the list of tools that you will need in the description so you are ready to do your lightweight pulley, whether it be the Modern Performance or the Road Race Motorsports one, as I chose for your 2.0 or 2.4 dart. There will be a review on this. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, there will be more mods coming soon. Thanks for watching.